Я опыт 510 передаю настройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, AK heads, it's time for another edition of the Talking Lead AK Corner. This is part 5. We do this once a month, as you faithful listeners know. And as we've been telling you over the past month, actually the past 2 months, we've had Jim scheduled for a while. We've got none other than the legend himself, Jim Fuller, join us, ladies and gentlemen. Jim.
How you doing, folks?
Welcome in, Jim.
Thanks, man. Good to be here, man.
And as you guys know, Jim is with Rifle Dynamics. And Jim is joining us from Nevada. Is that right?
Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada.
Yeah, you know, there's always that East-West Coast thing.
Yeah, I'm a Southern. I'm just an old redneck Tennessee boy.
Yeah, I'm down with you, brother.
So,
I mean, Nevada is turning into a blue state.
If you guys didn't check the last episode out, part 4, we had Marko Vorobiev, and Marko is a former Spetsnaz sniper, and that was a great interview. We got some insights from someone who used that in life and death situations, used the AK-47 life and death situations, and then he continues to use it. He's got training that he does, and then he's got a couple of books out as well. And one of you lead heads were lucky enough to win his book. So I want to hear from you, the winner of that book. Let me know how it is. Post pictures on social media. Let me see that. I know he said it was in the mail, so it should be coming to you any day now. And then, of course, we gave away the Cerakoted Hellpup AK-47s from Blackout Cerakote Customs. And that should be in the mail as well. So we look forward to seeing pictures of that from Leadhead. Who won that one last week? Giddy Up. Giddy Up won that one. I want to see those pictures when that thing arrives. So Schwell is running behind. He may jump in on this interview with us here in just a little bit, Jim. But we're going to go ahead and start it without him. And when he joins us, he'll join us. But the AK Corner, Talking Lead AK Corner, presented by Pioneer Arms Corps. You guys go to pioneer-pac.com. and check out their awesome line of AK-47s that's coming in from Poland. The Polish AK-47, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to Poland earlier this year and do a tour of their factory and see the process of how they make their AK-47s from start to finish. And
that must have been cool.
It was very cool. It was very impressive. The quality control that they have in place at that factory is unbelievable. So you know you're getting a great AK when you get a Pioneer Arms Corps AK-47. And that's what we're going to talk about today, are great AKs and great AK people with Jim Fuller. Jim, I know a lot of people want to learn more about you and Rifle Dynamics. Talk about how you got involved with the AK-47 platform.
I was exposed to him in the early 80s. Like anybody else, I was just a guy that liked guns. And actually, the first one I seen was a pretty messed up one. It looked like something you probably wouldn't even want to shoot, but it worked just great. And it kind of intrigued me. And back in those days, anybody that was around in those days, you can know that there was a lot of Chinese AKs in the country at the time, and they were very inexpensive. I mean, you could buy them for $200 or less at the time.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, you know.
Hindsight, yeah.
You know, same guns today sell for, you know, if you got it new in the box, probably $2,000, $3,000. I don't know. They're very collectible now, but
yeah, they're only going up in price too.
Yeah, but the thing was, they were, you know, it wasn't a very popular. It was popular for the fact that the ammo was cheap and you could buy the guns cheap, so it kind of had a little following for that. But it was really still, even in the late '70s, early '80s, still a pretty hated gun in this country. You know, I mean, it always been the enemy's gun. Never really had a big following. Through the 80s, it started getting kind of popular because of the Chinese imports, the Hungarian stuff that came in. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, towards the end of the 80s and then into the early 90s, politics set in and we lost all the import of that stuff. So pretty much through the 90s, AK was just kind of dead in this country.
Stinking politics.
Yeah, pretty much. They screw up.
Politicians are always fucking up shit.
Prostitution is a cleaner way to make a living, in my opinion. You know, politicians are just...
Right.
I don't even want to put prostitution that close to politicians.
You don't even want to taint that profession, do you? With saying politician next to it.
Prostitutes, at least they're providing a service for somebody.
It's actual useful service, right?
At least they give you a service for your money.
Right.
Politicians just take your shit.
and they give you nothing in return. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, I don't want to get off on that. I could go for hours on that. But the thing is politics kind of killed the AK. With the import ban in '89, and then China. Then Clinton banned all the Chinese imports in the 90s.
Yeah.
And until the end of the assault weapons ban, we really didn't. It wasn't until then it started opening up again. In the late '90s, we started getting parts kits and stuff in for AKs, but there just really wasn't a whole lot of things. You could find receivers here and there, and there was a few people doing them at the time. But again, it wasn't a big industry. There wasn't a lot of aftermarket stuff. You could get a kit. It had an original barrel, which is good. You can't get that anymore. But you find yourself a receiver. Beat this thing together, and you had yourself a pretty neat little gun. The ammo was real cheap back then, so it kind of became a thing, and it just went on from there. In those days, I was still doing a lot of actual physical training. I spent 5 years teaching at Frontside, and I taught for Suarez International for 6 years after that. And at the time I was teaching for Suarez when I started working on AKs and building them in particular. As a matter of fact, you mentioned Marco Broviev. I was at that first class that he did here with Suarez, and that was probably the first,
cool,
the first actual real AK training in America that I had ever seen. It was in September or October of 2005, I believe, 2006. And it was a great class. It was Marco Broviev, Sonny Pazikas was in that class. Paul Gomez also taught in that class.
Oh, Sonny! I just saw where he did a class down there with you here recently, didn't he?
Actually, he's doing a class in Vegas here this weekend. He's doing a class out of Pro Gun Club, I believe.
Okay.
I shared it with him the other day. But Sonny and Marco Broviev were the first Russian, legitimate Russian training that I had ever seen. Before that, everybody was just kind of M4 in the AK, if you know what I mean. They were just trying to figure out how to run it.
Yeah.
I've been running it for a long time, and I had developed things, but we didn't know a lot of the cool things that the Russians were doing back then. And Sonny and Marco kind of exposed us to that. And then there's been a lot of other people that have come along since then that have expanded upon that. The demons, as they call them. Dmitry Yermak, Dmitry Rizdak. Demon was just here at Red October. He did a couple of things out there for us, a couple of demonstrations of some of the stuff that they teach, and it's kind of cool seeing the Russian manual of arms and how they do stuff. It's pretty neat. They're good. You kind of got to pay attention to it, right?
So, how did you know that you were hooked on the AK-47? What was it about it that set in?
I didn't have to clean it. I didn't have to worry about it. It was a workhorse. You could beat it to death, and you couldn't kill it. It'll outlive the cockroach. Cool.
I like that. I'm surprised somebody hasn't come out with one that's called the cockroach.
Yeah, it's kind of almost, they kind of go together. Almost,
it's a term of endearment, I mean,
it is.
The cockroach is known to survive, anything, nuclear fallout,
Mm-hmm.
So,
I use that analogy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing when you compare something to a cockroach for most cases, So, so back in the 80s, that's kind of when you got your teeth sunk in on the AK-47, and then from there.
I really liked the gun, and I ran it, exclusively for a long time. It wasn't until I started teaching at Frontside that they wouldn't let you use an AK there. They hated AKs at school, so I had to run an M4 for 5 years while I worked there, and worked on AKs and played with them on the side, and nobody was allowed to see you with one. They're kind of stuck up.
Well, it's like you said too. I mean, they had a stigma about them because that was what the enemy used. That was the gun of the enemy, and it was just kind of a looked down upon if anybody used them here in America. You were considered a commie, Yeah,
I mean, I've told this story a few times, but there's, we'll go it again. I mean, down in San Diego, back in those days, if you walked into a gunsmith shop with an AK, that wasn't a really good idea.
Yeah.
Most of the gunsmiths at that time were probably Vietnam veterans, and it didn't go well. I tried it a couple of times, and it's like, get that communist shit out of my fucking store. Who the hell you think you are bringing that shit in here? It's like, bad mistake.
Yeah, and you're not exaggerating either. I guarantee you it was that way. Yeah.
No, it was. So that's kind of what pushed me to learn how to work on it, because it's like, well, nobody else is going to do it, and I need this shit to work better. It was mainly at the time, you notice the first things you notice about an AK is the sights kind of suck and the safety's a little tight. And there's a lot of sharp edges on it. So I just went to work on it. I screwed up a lot of those guns learning how to work on that gun too. I think I had 3 or 4 of them over the years that I just kind of did things I shouldn't have done to them, but I learned a good lesson.
That's how you learn, right? You break shit.
There was no internet back then to learn the wrong shit. I had to learn the wrong shit myself.
So that's a good point you bring up. How did you get the information and the tools and whatnot that you needed to work on these? That's I know there's a question in our box about this, and I'll give credit to credit's due here in a minute.
I went to airframe school years ago, to learn riveting. I never did it as a living, but I went through a 1-year program that Lockheed used to do with the North Valley Occupational Center in L.A. And it was kind of a neat thing. You did 6 months in a classroom and 6 months on the OJT,
Mm-hmm.
And I never did it as a career. I ended up being an electrician after that, of all things. But, I did have a background in riveting, and I understand the process of it and how to do it, where it's just not a lot of people do. And, if you think about riveting, it's not something that's really common in at least in the States. And, airplanes is probably like the biggest things I could think. If you look at an airplane, there's millions of rivets in them.
Oh, good Lord, yeah. I've got an aviation background. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so I don't need to tell you.
Yeah. Well, we're telling the lead heads, so.
but the whole thing was at least having a background in it. It's like, okay, these things are held together with rivets. And I met a guy named Hector Bennett, who I don't know if anybody remembers him. He was one of the guys who started Armory USA, and he's the only guy to this day I've ever met who was actually trained in a real comm block arsenal. He was trained in the Bulgarian arsenal, I believe, and he was just a wealth of knowledge. He was an incredible guy. He had Armory USA, and then he had another company called Elk River Tool and Die for a while, and he made a pretty decent receiver. He was one of the first guys to make a decent receiver for the AK, and I used to buy the rivets from him. He used to get Bulgarian rivets by the keg because he had the connects and stuff there.
Right. He knew a guy.
Huh? Yeah, he knew a guy. Yeah. And, I don't know where he's at these days. If you're watching this, man, Hector, give us a call. We miss you, dude. I don't know what you've been doing for years, but I haven't heard from you since Elk River. Elk River he sold, and then he tried to set up something else in Montana or something, and that's the last I heard of him. I don't know what he was doing.
Okay. What's his name? Hector
Bennett.
Hector Bennett. So if any of you lead heads out there, anybody listening knows Hector Bennett, have him get in touch with me, talkinglead@gmail.com. We'd love to get him on the show. He sounds like he was one of the pioneers of the AK in America.
He's a real old school guy. He's been around for a while. I mean, there was an AK industry, before we ever got into it, but that's been back in the 80s and the 90s, early 90s, and it's kind of died out since then. Yeah. Even the historical website they used to have is gone now too, I believe. It's come back now, and I think it's back here to stay. Now the industry is getting quite big. It's a lot better off than it was, 10, 12 years ago when we started getting into it.
Yeah.
And, now there's actually a lot of products available for the AK. There's a lot of good stuff out there. A lot of people are, and that's really market driven, because the more people that get into it, the more people are willing to invest money to create more products.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when there's a demand, then somebody's going to come out with a solution for that.
People constantly complain that they want, well, we need this, we need that. It's like, well, let's get some people involved in this and get enough people to buy it, and we can make that stuff. But otherwise, you can't get people to spend 6 figures to develop something if there's no market for it.
Yeah, and I think that attributes a lot to the popularity of the AK now. The AK-47 now is not only the accessories, but we were talking about a little bit earlier, and we'll get more into this as we talk, but the different calibers that are available with the AK now. I know that you just took a class over at Thunder Ranch, and you took a 5.56 AK.
Yeah, that was because they require frangible ammo there, and it just made sense. And frangible ammo is kind of pricey, but the 5.56 was cheaper than 7.62, and my cheapness got to me, and I wanted to play with my 5.56 AK. So what the hell?
Your frugalness,
there's that.
We get the most bang for your buck.
I'm retired. I'm on a fixed income now.
So the question about, I was trying to find who asked you the question about the that you got the part, how were you getting the parts and the experience for the AK platform back in the day before it was thought of as viable. That came from Nick Dooley.
When I started building, that's when they were selling. That's when the Romanian parts kits were around, and they were like $99 for. And most of these things were like brand new guns that were just cut up and never fired. They were $99 for the whole thing, with the receiver, barrel, everything. And man, you just at that price, we were going nuts building those guns. I think we bought like 50 of them in the first batch and just went crazy building guns for everybody. Yeah. And it's. I mean, that was before we were in business. You know, we were just building stuff just for fun. You know, friends get together and have what they. You know, back then before they were having build parties, we were having build parties. You know? You know?
So I'm sure you had to figure out. This is part of Nick's question too. The tools back then, I'm sure they weren't readily available. The parts, you have to go overseas to get some of the parts and whatnot.
Yeah, we bought stuff from. I remember I bought an armorer's kit. I think it was a Polish armorer's kit or something like that. We got a couple of oddball tools in that, but it really wasn't nothing for building. It was more like just maintenance tools and things. But then there was a couple of different people that were making different riveting jigs, and we played around with a few things. We built a few things, but until I seen the one that AK Builder came out with, which I still use today, you know, modified slightly, but they seem to make the most useful one that's on the market. There's a few other ones since then, but I've been using that particular jig for so long that, you know, I have 4 or 5 of them set up for different things, and they just work, so I haven't really looked at anything else.
Yeah.
But those are the ones we've been using mainly since we've been in business. You know?
So this question kind of goes along with that. This is from Jacob Roseski. I hope I said your name right, Jacob. It says, being based in Las Vegas, how hard was it to begin producing in the U.S., i.e. machines, templates, R&D, et cetera?
Well, as far as producing things, I mean, we don't really make a lot of stuff here. We are making more stuff all the time, but in the beginning, we were buying all of our parts for them. You know, the Romanian kits, Polish kits, whatever was available at the time, Bulgarian stuff. We're buying parts from other countries. That's where our supply comes from. You know, you know, we're basically at the mercy of other countries demilling their guns to get parts until we can get parts completely made here. Now, you know, the market does not support making, you know, standard mil spec AK parts in this country. It's just too expensive for the market right now. I mean, to do forgings for, you know, there's 3 parts that should be forgings, and to do that, you're probably looking at almost $500,000 to develop it.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty hard to get somebody to do that at this point. I think it's close, and I think we're going to get somebody to do it. I mean, we know how to do it. We know exactly what to do. We know how to get it done. We've studied it. We've worked on it. We can do it. But you got to get somebody that's willing to put up that dough.
That's right. It's all about the dollars, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, and I mean, like, you know, like for instance, you know, Century, you know, Pioneer Arms, you know, they have a nice budget gun that you can get out there. And that's really where the biggest part of the market is right now. I think we were looking at the numbers from 2015, and I think it was something like 80,000 AKs were sold in America, and most of them came from Century and IO. You know, the budget price guns down there,
right,
which that's where the biggest market is. But as the market grows and gets bigger in the higher end, you'll see people getting into that thing. I mean, DDI almost had it there. They were doing forgings and getting pretty close to a mil spec AK, but everything kind of I don't know what all happened there, but it just kind of went south. And then I think PSA bought their parts, and I think PSA is using some of those parts now. So I don't know for sure how all that's going. Yeah. But we're really close to having a good, high-quality American AK. Yeah. And when I say high-quality, I'm talking about a mil-spec gun that you would make a machine gun out of and run 100,000 rounds through with barrel changes, of course.
Yeah. So that's kind of we've got several people that have asked that question. It's like, you know, what sets the AKs, your AKs, made in the U.S. apart from, you know, say a Russian or a Chinese or maybe a Polish?
Well, one, you can get them.
What's that?
One is you can get them. Try to buy a Russian AK these days or a Chinese AK. You can't.
Yeah, that's true.
But as a matter of fact, the only Comblock Arsenal gun that I think you can get right now on a regular basis is probably a Wasser. You know, which is not a bad gun, but it's certainly not one of the nicer guns that have been available from different countries. I mean, you know, we use a lot. We're using virgin Romanian parts for most of our builds right now, and they make a good gun. But really, the Wasser is the only Comblock made gun you can get in this country right now. You know,
now, are you doing? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I guess you really can't call Romania a Comblock country, but it is a Comblock setup arsenal. The Russians set up that. You know that
it used to be.
Yeah, used to be.
Yeah. So, and do you guys do milled receivers?
We've done a lot of builds on the Sharps Row receivers. We've done a couple on the Tortex, I believe they're called. Mm-hmm. But you know, there's not a really big call for them. I think we've done most on the Sharps Row receivers just because it's kind of a nice novelty with the M4 stock. We helped develop that receiver too as well. They brought it to me when they were just about there. They had a few bugs to work out, and we helped them get it over the line and get it out on market. Yeah. And it's a nice receiver. It makes a pretty good gun. I've got a couple of them here that I kept for myself. My DMR is made out of one as well.
Do you prefer milled over stamped, or?
Myself personally, I prefer a stamped gun. They're just way lighter. And as far as durability, there's really not much more durability in a stamped receiver than in a milled receiver. I mean, in a milled over a stamp, because really the durability factor is based on the barrel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Receiver, you know? So, and most people never run enough ammo through a gun to burn out a barrel. So, when you get to the fact of, I mean, the biggest difference, to get back to your question about what's the difference between what we do and what a Russian does, like for instance, we're generally not going to have a hammer forged barrel unless people ask for it. One reason for that is we're not making machine guns. I mean, we do make machine guns, but not for the general public.
Sure.
And, you know, hammer forged barrels are meant for use on machine guns and should be used with machine guns because of the extra heat and the friction that's taken. They'll wear out twice as fast. They'll burn out a 4150 barrel, which is what we use on our semi-auto rifles. If I pull on a machine gun, I'll burn it out in about 10,000 rounds or less because they're just not durable enough. You know, whereas a hammer forged barrel will go 30,000 rounds or more.
Right.
You know.
Well, and like you said too, I mean, even the 10,000 round barrel, I mean, most people aren't going to put that many rounds through one anyway.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. But you take that same barrel and you put it on a semi-auto gun, you'll get 20 or 20,000 rounds or more out of that barrel because it's not taking the abuse that a machine gun puts on it. So, you know, and again, how many people shoot 20,000 rounds through one gun? Most people won't do that in their life, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we have customers that do. I have customers I've rebarreled their guns 3, 4, 5 times. You know, I've got a couple of people that are that are around 100,000 rounds on their gun. Hey, Travis Haley being one. You know, he's got 100,000 rounds on his first gun.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like, you know, 0.1% of people who, you know, who shoot.
Probably more than anybody I know. But we have a few other people that we rebarreled their guns 2 or 3 times now. And myself, I've got a few guns that I've had to rebarrel. I've got one crank that we've taken to the limit. It's got 110,000 rounds through it, and it's pretty much retired now because the trunnion and you can't put any. We've had 5 barrels in it. The trunnion can't take any more. It's just we could rebuild it with a new trunnion and a barrel, but it's like it served its purpose. It's time to let it retire and hang on the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
I had the opportunity to shoot one of your rifles. And it's not one you guys made, but it was one that was made, I think, at one of your classes. Brian with Occam Defense.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was down here in Nashville, and he was taking a class over at Tactical Response. Mm-hmm. And he brought it down, and we got to shoot that. And really, yeah, it shot really nice. I loved it. It was great. Yeah,
Brian's a good dude. He was just at the shop recently, and he brought his grease by. We're looking at some of the stuff he's got going, and we're going to be doing some stuff with Brian. We're going to start including his little grease dispensers in our with all of our guns now, and we're looking at a few other things he's doing too. He's a pretty sharp dude.
Yeah, he is. I got one of their front post sights. I had it right here. Oh, here it is. I'm going to put that on one of my AKs and try that out.
Yeah, we put a few of those on guns for people that have sent those in for us. And it's a very well made part. You know, Brian's the kind of guy Brian's an engineer who understands that you have to engineer stuff to be bomb proof, shall we say? And that part is bomb proof. It's a tough part. It's made out of good quality metal and it's machined properly. So,
oh man, you can tell just by feeling of it. It's a solid part. And I'm looking forward to trying it out. It's going to replace the front post sight, or I'm sorry, the rear sight of the AK. Mm-hmm. But that's another question that I wanted to ask. You know, and I guess it's just a matter of personal preference. But I know there's probably some physics involved with it as well. Side mounted versus top mounted sights.
Well, it's really more of a scout thing. Like I would say, the best way I could put it is like on a 7.62 gun. I mean, you can put a side rail on it, but you're dealing with a round that's really only designed to be effective out to 300 yards. I mean, you can stretch them to 400 and even 500 yards. But for something like that, a scout mount with a red dot is going to do you just fine. You know, now you look at a 5.45 or a 5.56 AK, which has a round that's capable of much better distance. Mm-hmm. A side rail with a magnified optic makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, because you have use for that. A magnified optic. I mean, I've got my DMR in 7.62 has an ACOG, and you know I can make hits out to 500 yards with that. But you know, the round starts going transonic at 550. So you know, how much better can you expect it to be beyond that? You know, whereas with the 5.45 or the 5.56, you're looking at 700 and 800 yards engagements and being able to make pretty effective hits. So,
So
with the magnified optic, it makes sense on the side rail.
Yeah, and I've heard different opinions, and I've got I agree with some of them to a certain extent. I mean, each of them make a little bit of sense. Side mount, mounting it on the receiver versus mounting it on the the barrel area, and Occam's come out with a full handrail for it too, where you can mount sights on that.
Yeah, we're actually looking at that with them right now. We're looking at a variation of that we kind of interested in. And, we've been running aim points on the Ultimac for years. That's the standard setup that I've ran for optics, and that's not a problem at all. A lot of people will claim that the Ultimac will burn up an optic, and it will burn up the lesser expensive optics, but the aim point is rated for a higher heat rating than the Ultimac ever gets, so we don't have any problem with the aim points burning up.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of issues why people don't like to use a scout-mounted optic on a gas tube like that.
Yeah.
But it is the lowest mounted and probably one of the best. You can co-witness your sights with it too that way. So we've always liked it for that reason.
So I've got Right On Optics. They've got a red dot, and it's rated to take that kind of heat. I actually gave Brian one, so he's trying it out on his AK. I'm going to be mounting it on these AKs that I've got here as well and trying them out. But they're really good red dots. I'll get you one of those. I'll have one sent to you.
Yeah, be interested to see it, because anything that'll work. Cause I think the aim point is rated for 140 degrees, and I think we measured the Ultimax running at about 110 to 120, depending on the caliber and the ambient temperature, so on and so forth. So
right.
if it's above 120 heat rating, it should be okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And then a lot of times too, it's not necessarily burning up the scope. What it is they have safety cutoffs. If they overheat, they shut down, so that the expensive electronics don't burn up in them. That's the case, I think, with some of the EOTechs. It was just a battery cutoff that was shutting down because it was getting too hot.
Right.
So it really wasn't burning the scope, but it was shutting off so it wouldn't burn.
Yeah.
So,
and AKs get hot. They get really hot.
Yeah. You know what? You learn real quick.
Yeah. It just takes one burn mark and you learn your lesson.
Yeah. But gloves on your support hand is a good idea with an AK.
So let's go back to the questions here. Jerry Black says, what is the most common failure of the AK-47 and how can it be avoided? Most
common failure?
It's a user error.
Yeah, more than anything, because if it's built right, they generally don't fail. I mean, I've gone thousands of rounds without cleaning guns, and they just keep running. If anything I've seen is failure from springs wearing out, extractor springs start going, you don't get good extractor, but it takes quite a bit to do that.
Yeah.
Extractor springs on my guns about every 2,000 rounds, and that's probably doesn't need to be done that much. I'm just kind of anal about that, because if you don't extract, it ain't going to work.
You want to be proactive, definitely.
Yeah, and and like the recoil return spring, I'll change those about every 3,000 to 4,000 rounds. You can pull them off, and a good sign is if you pull them off and take them off the recoil return guide. If they're more than an inch shorter than a new one, change it. After a while, they'll get to be 2 or 3 inches shorter than a new one, and then it's really too short. You're going to start getting running battering. You're not really getting the gun's not running efficiently at that point.
So another
springs, first things that go.
Yeah, the springs.
Mm-hmm.
And those are probably the cheapest parts to maintain and replace. So
yeah, and again too, that we're talking about if the gun's built right. There's the beautiful thing about the AK is it's such a great design that it can actually be built wrong and work. Yeah. It'll won't work as well, but it'll still work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really is the beauty of the gun. I'm not putting that down like that, and that's one of the reasons why it can be made in such a wide variance of tolerances. You can make a gun that's $600, or you can make a gun that's $2,500, and they still work.
How would you know if one is it's operating? Maybe operating. How do you know if it's not operating correctly?
Well, you can look at the ejection pattern of the guns. Generally a standard AK should be throwing your brass your cases 20 to 30 feet, depending on how it was built, how it was gassed. What kind of ammo you're running. All that's affects it, but if you got one that's just barely dribbling brass out, there could be an issue there. If you got one that's heavily overgassed and recoiling you and blowing smoke back in the face, that can be an issue too. And all those things over time can make a difference on how long the gun lasts. Additionally, the riveting in there, the riveting is, and I don't see Usually, generally, only on the really budget, cheaper guns do you see bad riveting these days. Most of the time, people have been hammered for it so much they're getting pretty good at getting this stuff right. You know, but for a long time, man, some of the guns on the market had just some horrible, horrible rivets, and the rivets are what hold it together. You know.
So here's a question. It's kind of a little different. So it says, I was curious about the AK world. This comes from Jason Farmer. So the VZ58 was an AK variant that was designed for the Czechoslovakian military. I was hoping Jim might be able to give us his take on them and why the Czechs decided to build it instead of using the AK-47.
Well, first off, it's a great gun. I own one, but it's not really an AK variant. The only thing AK about it is the ammo. It runs a 7.62 by 39, and it has a curved mag. But other than that, it is nothing like. It doesn't operate anything like an AK. The mag. There's nothing interchangeable in that gun. It's probably closer to an SKS than it is closer to an AK. It's just a completely different design, really. And like again, it's not a bad gun, but it's really not an AK. As a matter of fact, Red October, it was kind of an issue the first year. Could people use a VZ58 because was it considered a com block gun? Because you know the Czechs weren't necessarily com block. I mean that's kind of iffy depending on where you are in history. And the VZ58 is really not an AK. You know, it's just really the same caliber, and that's about it. But cool. It is a good gun. I'm not running it down. I'm just correcting it. It's not an AK.
Yeah. And then Jason also sent us an email. He said he signed up for the Vince Buckles, Larry Vickers class in the spring. Says, thanks for hooking me up. We had Vince on an earlier episode. I think it was our second episode we had Vince on. And he was talking about that. Had some spots open in his class. I'm sure it's all full now. I'm sure there's not any spots.
Oh, yeah, he does. He sells that out every year. Vince is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. And well,
that's how you and I got hooked up. Was
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Vince called me about your show and said, yeah. And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. It sounds fun. But Vince, if I couldn't build an AK anymore and I wanted one, he'd be the guy I'd call.
There you go.
I mean, I know Vince. I know how he works. I know his ethics. I wouldn't think twice about buying a gun from him. That's just how we roll here. Vince is my buddy.
So let's go to another question here. This one comes from Giddy Up. Make sure to ask the origin of the Fuller AK. Where did he start? Why, etc. I think we kind of covered that. Yeah. So I'm curious about optic mounting options, which we kind of touched on that. For a while, Rifle Dynamics used the Ultimac gas tube. Why does he prefer that over mounting options?
We always have, and we still are today.
What's the way he prefers to set up the AK pistol variants in general? What's the best way, in his opinion?
I set all my guns up the same way. I run an Ultimac with an aim point with a white light. I use the Haley Thorn tail mount. Scout with a mini Scout on it. I think all my guns are the same way, whether it's a pistol or whether it's a long gun. It's the only thing that's different is probably my DMR, and I run an ACOG on that.
I think maybe what he's asking too on the pistol is, do you use any of those braces?
Yeah, we use the latest SB Tactical, not the folding one, because the folding one's still kind of iffy with ATF right now. But we use the collapsible one on our pistols.
When
it's for the stock, it really doesn't work. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, I think, and I've had this question several times too, and I'm sure it's model variant, AK variant for the folding stocks. You got to get into that trunnion sometimes, and
if you want the triangle folder, the standard com block folder, it requires a special purpose-built trunnion to do that with. And one thing, we've always avoided building with those trunnions because you're really walking a fine line with ATF on this stuff, because they approved braces. If you build a trunnion with a thing that'll readily accept a side folding stock, the owners don't want to go down that road. So we haven't done that, but we have found out now that I heard Casey was telling me today or yesterday, we were talking about it, that the Form 1s through E-Check, the E-Verify system, are taking only like 15 days now. So if you buy a pistol, you can Form 1 it and get it approved in 15 days and put a real stock on it.
Yeah.
So that's a big plus right now, because people were waiting, to get approval for a Form 4 or Form 1 in the past has been 8 months to a year, but now they're saying it's like going in 15 days on the E-Check.
If our listeners had an AK pistol and they wanted to get that conversion done, is that something that they could send to you to have done?
We can't do Form 1s because Form 1, if you file a Form 1, that means you're doing it yourself. So if technically we can't do it, we have to do it on a Form 2 and then Form 4 it. But with a Form 1, most of these guns you buy, they're really, if you buy with a standard fixed stock, there's so many options of stocks that you can put on those that are legit. And I think that with this change now, then people may just start making them with those side folding stocks now. I don't know.
That would make sense. I mean, why not?
It would make sense if you could do it that easily, But again, I can't say that we're going to do it because I don't own the company anymore and I don't make those decisions. So that's liability for somebody else that I don't have to worry about.
Somebody else's stress now, right?
Exactly.
He goes on to ask about what calibers do you prefer? The 7.6 Tuba 39, 5.45, or do you like the 5.56 setup?
5.45 Master Race all the way. I love that round. I think it's the best round that the AK was chambered in. That said, I'm sad to say that it's getting very, very hard to find parts for that gun anymore. And people, one of the questions I've seen on there, somebody had asked why they don't see 74s on our website anymore, and that's the reason, because we don't know about the availability of parts right now. It's a little iffy on whether we're going to, like I said, we're subject to the availability of what's out there, and things aren't always out there.
Right, so. And I believe that was Cadell Fu asked that question about the AK-74. So let's go grab some more questions here from our Instagram post that we did. Let's see, Alan Schaefer. He says, what's the future of RD, and is there any plan to offer sub 1K kit builds?
The future of RD is probably looking pretty good right now. There's a lot of things going on that I'm not at ease to talk about right now. As far as $1,000 kit build, I don't think you'll ever see that out of RD. The stuff we do here, we just can't build them that cheap. We just can't. It just, you come out and see what we do, and you'll see why it costs what it costs.
Talk about that.
Welcome out anytime. I'll personally give you a tour of the whole deal.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I know there's several questions that have this too. Is what sets a Rifle Dynamics apart from the others? We kind of touched on that a little bit, but if you want to go into
one, we've done it probably longer than anybody that's doing it right now, and two, almost everybody that's producing guns right now on a custom level are basically building the same style of gun we started building 10 years ago. So there's a reason why people have always came to us.
Experience.
That's it.
Quality. Yeah.
Plus, some of the most well-known shooters in the country are running our guns. So
that's something I wanted to talk to you about too. Red October was just recent. I didn't get a chance to go. I was in Georgia, but Jay from Century Arms invited me to come up to go to that. And I know you guys are one of the sponsors of that. Talk about that event a little bit. Actually. What's that?
We're the title sponsor, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
That's been a blast. Brian Nelson's a competitive shooter up in the Utah area, and he's a very, very very good at that stuff. And he wanted to expand and build an AK competition. And he approached us 3-4 years ago about it. He came down to our open house during SHOT Show and asked me would I be interested in getting involved in it, sponsoring it, trying to help promote it. And I said, absolutely, it sounds like a great idea. And the first year we did pretty good. I think we had 125 contestants and probably about that many spectators over the weekend. The second year,
awesome.
Doubled that. The third year, this last year, we had over 300 competitors and probably, I'm going to guess, 400 to 500 participants. So every year it keeps getting bigger, more competitors, more people going there, more sponsors. Most we had tons and tons of guys out there, and it's kind of like, it's not as much of a competition as it is just kind of like a celebration of the AK, kind of like a cultural event, because you got as many people going there just to be there as they are to compete. And you got people showing up in period correct uniforms and all kinds of costumes because it is around Halloween time, so it's just kind of a fun event. There's
I was going to say it's kind of like a Renaissance festival, but with guns.
Yeah. That's actually a good way to do it. Plus, it's in a really nice area where you can camp, and it's just beautiful countryside out there. So it's kind of helps you afford it. You don't have to have a hotel if you don't need it.
Where is it held?
It's held in a city called Hurricane. It's just north of St. George, Utah.
Oh, okay.
It's about 2 hours north of Vegas, northeast of Las Vegas.
And is it at the same place every year?
Yes.
Very good. And when's the next one?
The next one will be in October of 2019.
October 2019. So go ahead and mark that on your calendars, Leadheads. Yeah.
I forget which weekend it is. I think it's the second or third. I forget. It's been different every year. It kind of depends on, because they have competitions there every weekend just about. It's a pretty well used range for that stuff there. A lot of IPSA competitions. So
what are some of the courses that are set up for that competition with the AK?
That's kind of cool. They kind of try to do theme type stuff. Like there was one that's like Mogadishu where they had a downed helicopter. Obviously not a real one, but they build props up like this, and then they have a like a city thing. They did them this year. They did kind of like themed to like different countries and stuff, or different battlefields, and they build up different props for that to simulate that. None of the competition is not really high speed and hard like you would expect in a 3-gun match. The one is built just to run with your AK. It's not designed to to change other guns, pistol, shotgun, that kind of thing. It's just with the AK. They keep it fun, but they keep it simple, so you don't have to be a really squared away competitive shooter to enjoy this. And you don't even really have to be a competitive shooter to win. It's really all. It's more about you got to be good, and you got to work at it. But you don't have to be the best to have a good time and actually do well.
Well, like you said earlier, it's just it's like-minded individuals, people who appreciate and enjoy the AK platform that are getting together and celebrating and enjoying it, whether they're in the competition or not.
Yeah, and that's really how it is, and that's why it's such a fun event, because you have a little bit of everything for everybody like that.
Cool. Let's go back to Instagram here. Big Papa 94 says, "So excited! Tell Jim we appreciate everything he does for the gun community." So there you go.
It's my mission. I knew in the beginning if there wasn't an industry, we would never get to where we are now. So I've always kind of tried to plant work at trying to build the industry as well. That's why I started doing build classes, and that's why I've always tried to do these things and help people advance this as much as possible. I want to leave something behind when I go. It's not what you do while you're here; it's what you leave behind.
It's a great philosophy. Yep. Mid-Me Sage says, Fuller AK, you ever mess with the first gen Galil? What's your thoughts on them?
I was actually quite inspired by them. Our front end design was based on the idea of the Galil. The Galil just didn't do what I wanted it to do because it was a pretty heavy gun. They were a milled receiver, and I liked them. I liked the front end design, the combination front sight gas block, because I knew that would do something in the right package, which it did for us when we started doing it. And that was the inspiration for the front end job that we started doing 12 years ago, and which really is what the success of our guns was built off of, is the handling of that front end and the way it works with for fighting with it, and speed shooting, whatever.
Right.
But kind of how that works.
We've got tons and tons and tons of questions, and we're getting kind of towards the end of the show here, so let's get a couple more in, and then we'll do our wrap up and our giveaways.
Cool.
Here's one. It says this is from Deadman Jerky Co.
Oh, I know that dude.
Okay, all right.
Great beef jerky.
Oh, they make beef jerky.
Actually, I built a couple of guns for him. That's Chase Deadman. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, Chase, send me some jerky, man. I love beef jerky, or deer jerky, stuff, or whatever. Yeah,
he makes good stuff.
Jim, what's been your favorite customer sent in kit that you've built over the years?
Well, he probably wants me to say the Russian 74 kit that he sent in that I just built.
Is that his?
It was a nice one, but we've actually seen a few of those, and his was a pretty nice one, I will say. But I would say probably the coolest one I got to say that we built has been the Type 2s. I built like 3 Type 2s, 1 for myself and 2 for other people. And those were re-welds, which are very rare guns. And those were probably the most exciting guns that I personally think, that would, to answer that question.
Sure.
I think the Type 2s that I built have probably been the most exotic kits that we've worked on. Yeah.
Mustang Perry says, I'm so excited for this episode. I can't wait to hear all the advice and training tips that Jim Fuller has to tell all us leadheads. Seems like it is still going to be so long until this comes out, though. So, it's going to be the 15th is when, every month. That's usually when we release the show. But what about training tips? Have you got any training tips for the lead heads out there for the AK-47?
Biggest thing is run the AK like an AK. You know, far too many people that have no experience with the AK, they want to try to run it like the M4, and you can't. It doesn't work. The mags don't load the same. The safeties don't work the same. The gun is not designed to be run the same. You know, get some exposure to Russian weapons handling, and you'll be a whole lot better off learning some of that stuff. Some of it may not work for you. Some of it may. But the gun was designed by those people, and they found some pretty effective ways to use it. And, you know, we've integrated a lot of that stuff with Western training into that. You know, any of the AK-specific trainers, Travis Haley, Larry Vickers, Sonny Pazikis is doing classes again. If you can get one of the Dimas when they're in town, they live in Russia, so they're not here that often. But when they come over and do a class, it's pretty great.
Who is that?
Huh?
Who is that? Did you say?
They're known as the Dimas. They're one of them's a retired Spetsnaz, and one of them's an active Spetsnaz, and they've been over here several times doing classes. They're really nice guys and very skilled and you know, competent fighting men. Yeah. So you learn a lot of good stuff from those guys. But
Sonny's former Spetsnaz too, right?
He is. Yes, I do. I believe he is. But you know, those four guys, and then there's a lot of other guys. Ken Allen, I think, is doing AK specific classes. Travis Haley, I mentioned. Clint Smith is now doing an AK specific class. We just took his first one a couple of weeks ago, which I had a blast. I love Clint Smith. He's so unfiltered, you know. But we're going to be offering a class this year too called the AK Discovery Course. It's a 2-day class where 1 day of armor class and 1 day on the range, learn basic weapons handling of the AK and running our full auto variants. So it's a really good exposure to the AK if you want to get into it and learn a good amount about it and play with real actual full auto variants. And you'll pick up a lot in that 2-day period. And of course, you can always sign up for our build class and build one yourself.
There you go. And give them the website or page they need to go to. RifleDynamics.com. There you go, guys.
Yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook, all the standard stuff, you know.
Well, like I said, I mean, we've still got tons and tons of questions here. We probably need to have you on for another segment to cover all these questions.
We're talking about guns, man. Just guys talking about guns. How can you not want to do that?
Absolutely, man. It's been great, and I mean, I've just been sitting here learning and listening. So, I mean, I'm usually more talkative than this, but you've been great. So I appreciate you taking the time. Let's give away one of your CDs.
Sure.
Let's go to that Instagram post, Jim, and I'm going to just pick a number between, let's see, looks like 1 and about 20 or so.
Which on your thread?
Yeah, let's go to my thread. Technology.
Technology, man. You and I just had that conversation. You know I hate it.
Yeah, it's great when it works.
It's great when it works, but most of the time it doesn't work with me.
Me either.
Smartphone's 2% smarter than I am.
I break shit all the time.
All right, I'm on it now here.
Okay.
So
so just pick a number between 1 and 20. I thought we had at least.
Let's go with number 8. How's that? Number 8.
Okay, number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mustang Perry.
Okay, cool.
Mustang Perry, you are the winner of the first DVD. Is it a training DVD? Is that what it is?
That's actually our Armors DVD.
Ooh.
3.5 hours of how to work on the AK.
Ooh, sweet. I want that one.
Well, we can. Yeah, we'll take care of that. Email us the address and we'll send these out to these guys.
No, yeah, definitely. So Mustang Perry, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. Give us your address and we'll make sure that we get you that CD. Let's go to Facebook now. Are you giving 2 of these away? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send you one too.
Oh, well, I would love to have one. Thank you so much.
No, I know you're trying to learn, so we'll send you one. I want you to have it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got a little bit of Armor's course when I was in Poland as well. So
Cool.
It's kind of cool. All right, we'll go to the Facebook post now. We'll see who's posted on Facebook. And we've got 2, 3, 4 here. I think let's go to top fan Kurt Garber. We're going to give him, and his question was, we didn't read his question. It says, Jim did a collaboration with Silencer Co. a few years ago. Is that something we will see more of in the future? Second question what are his thoughts on doing an East Coast builders course?
As far as the suppressor collaborations, yes, there's one coming up. We're going to be doing a collaboration with Dead Air. We did 3 with Silencer Co. in the past. Those were very successful. We enjoyed working with those, and we're getting ready to do I believe we're going to do a pistol, and I'm not sure what can we're doing. We're working out all the details right. That we're going to do a package thing with one of their cans, one of our pistols, and probably a chest rig and a carrying case from HSP, from Haley Strategic Partners. So it's going to be a nice little package, you know.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be awesome. And what are your thoughts on doing an East Coast builders course?
We cannot do it because we are a licensed manufacturer. We can only hold them in our place of our manufacturing residence. We went through this with ATF years ago. I actually asked about doing them on the road, telling them that we're not building the guns, the students are, so we're not manufacturing. The guy at the time agreed with us and says, yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. And about a year later, they changed their mind and stopped us from doing it. And, we didn't get in any trouble because they had originally told us we could. So, but they you know.
Sorry, Kurt. Yeah, get a plane ticket and go out to Nevada and take the course out there. It'd be well worth it.
Yeah, we just put up our schedule next year for the 5 courses we're offering next year. Plus, we also do privates too. If people can't make the group classes that we do private classes. They're more money, obviously, for a private class, but
well worth it, I'm sure. So,
you get one-on-one attention pretty much building this gun, no matter which class you're in. But the private class is, there's a lot more to that. Just obviously, one-on-one, or we do 1, 2, 3 people in the class at a time. We get a lot of father-son groups, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, Kurt Garber, send me email, talkinglate@gmail.com with your contact information. I'll forward that on to Jim, and he'll make sure that you get that DVD. So,
yes, we will, sir.
Congratulations. So, now it's the time that all the lead heads have been waiting for.
You going to give away a Pioneer pistol here?
Yeah, we're going to give away a Pioneer Arms Corps Help Up. This will be our, let's see, I got to do the math, our 5th one? So this is episode 5. So this will be our 5th AK giveaway. So we've had a lot of participation from you guys, and I greatly appreciate all the sharing, all the likes, all the comments that you guys have been doing. You've been fabulous, and it gets better and better each month. And I'm just going to, some honorable mentions here. Jerry Black has been doing phenomenal. Mustang Perry, which he just won one of your DVDs. Ed Burton, Gio Osmond, Waylon Austin, Bill Adams, John Adams. I don't know if they're related or if he's the same guy and he's just cheating, but they got the same name. Tyler Spence, Jacob Rosowski, Nuffy Wrangle. I think that's a made up name as well. Big Papa. I can't name everybody. I'll be here all night naming everybody who's just doing a phenomenal job. But I've narrowed it down to 2 of you lead heads. And we're going to let Jim do the honors, and I haven't told him who we're doing or how we're going to pick this. So this is completely off the cuff. Yep. This is 2 of you that have been above and beyond. I mean, I've seen your name everywhere. You've been sharing the post over and over and over again, and that's what we really need, because Facebook and Instagram, these social media sites, are really choking down the gun industry on our exposure on those platforms. So the more you guys share this, the better it is for us, because I don't know about you, Jim, but I've been completely blackballed, and I can't boost any of my posts that I do anymore. Yeah, we can't boost at all. I tried it one time. I boosted. They accepted a $40 thing to boost it. And then 5 minutes later, they said, sorry, you're a gun business. We can't boost you. And then they didn't give me my money back. Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's what they do. So I'm in the same boat right now, too. So when you guys share these posts, it helps us greatly. So shares are where it's at. Definitely, that's the only way we can get it. We can get any kind of exposure anymore. So I've got it narrowed down to 2 of you lead heads here, and your fate lies in the hands of Jim. And what do you think the best way to narrow? Flip a coin? You think coin toss? You want me to toss a coin and put one guy's name on heads, one guy's name on tails? Yeah, put an initial on one, and yeah, one side and the initial on the other. A coin. I don't have any coins on me. You got no coins on you? Yeah, my wife's going to hand me a coin. There you go.
Oh
And-
shit! I just dropped it in the couch. Sorry.
There's probably more in there too.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Whatever else down there? Probably bullets and all kinds of shit.
More money.
Okay, try it again.
More money.
All right, we have heads and tails on this. It's a quarter. It actually has a head and a tails thing. Where's the camera? There
Yeah,
it
I
is.
see it. I see it. I verify that. Okay. So put a JB on one side. Which side do you got right now?
Let's say JB is heads.
Okay, JB is heads, and then EB is tails.
Yeah, how's that? That's good.
That's good. So let's flip the coin.
And it is tails. EB, I believe.
EB. So Ed Burton. Congratulations. Yep, it's tails. Confirmed it right there. Ed Burton, you are the winner. Ed Burton. Yeah, so Ed has been phenomenal. I've gone through since last month's show, and I've looked at every post we've done, not just the AK Corner. With the exception of maybe one or two posts, Ed has shared, liked, been commenting on just about every post. So, Ed, you are well deserving. I hope that you can legally accept a firearm. If you can't, you're not going to get it. But I'm pretty sure Ed is. He's a law enforcement guy. So, congratulations.
Yeah, I think he's probably okay.
Yeah. And JB, Jerry Black, you know who you are. And all you other guys that I mentioned, we've still got 7 more to give away. So you're not out of it. Lots more to give away. And we'll probably have even more with great guests like Jim offering prizes to you guys as well. Tune in every month, the Talking Lead AK Corner, sponsored by Pioneer Arms Corps, and you could win one of those awesome Hell Pups along with some other awesome prizes from our guests like Jim. And we may have Jim on again. We've still got lots of episodes to go.
Yeah, I'd be glad to, man. It's a lot of fun.
So, guys, make sure you go to our post, Talking Lead, Instagram, Facebook, our website. Listen to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Make sure you go and thank Jim. Go to his sites as well. You're Fuller AK on Instagram.
I'm Fuller AK and Jim Fuller on Facebook, and of course Rifle Dynamics on Facebook and Rifle Dynamics Instagram.
Make sure you go and show him how much that the Leadhead Nation, Leadhead Brigade appreciates Jim. And if you guys want him on again, the more feedback he gets, probably the odds are increased he'll be back on again. We didn't get to have Schwell on, my co-host. We will definitely get some feedback from Schwell. We might do an Instagram live with him. But for all you winners in the past, if your stuff has not arrived yet, let me know, talkinglead@gmail.com. But I think most everything is out now, and you guys should be getting it hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But as a winner, just a quick reminder, allow 4 to 8 weeks, especially for these rifles. But send me your contact info. Ed, I forgot to tell you, I've already got it, but just send me talkinglead@gmail.com. Let me know what your FFL info is and all that, and we'll get all that started. So, Jim, any parting words for the Leadheads?
Stay safe and be deadly.
Be vigilant. And make sure you guys tune in every episode, Talking Lead Podcast. We've got hey, you might be interested in this. We've got our special Black Friday, Cyber Monday special episode coming up. It'll be our 4th annual, where we're going to be giving you Leadheads all the great deals that are coming up, where you can save money and get awesome firearms, accessories, gear, kit, all that. Some exclusive only to you Leadheads. So you've got to listen to the podcast to get that. And that's going to drop Thanksgiving.
Cool.
So if Rifle Dynamics has any special Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals coming up, make sure you send those to me, Jim, and we'll put them on that episode.
Yeah, I think we do have something working. Eric will probably email you about it or something like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's make sure we get you guys on that episode as well.
Cool, man.
So until next month, Leadheads, make sure you study up, get your AKs, go out, train, and send me your questions. TalkingLead@gmail.com, subject AK Corner.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's a lot of fun, and anytime you want to do this, just let me know. We'll do it. was AK before AK was cool. That old fucking stuff.
Right.